All right, hello and welcome. I'm here with Bonnie Tinder from Raven Intel. We're here today to talk about ERP system integrators, which is a topic that is near and dear to both of our hearts. So thanks for joining me today, Bonnie.
My pleasure. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So I guess to start, we want to have a conversation about system integrators and some of the things to look for when we're evaluating system integrators, some of the lessons you've learned in your career and in your research. But I guess to start, why don't we start off with an introduction? Who are you? Who's Raven Intel? Tell us a little bit about you.
Awesome. So I am the founder and CEO of Raven Intel, and Raven Intel is a B2B peer review site. We are something like TripAdvisor or Glassdoor, but for enterprise software consulting. What our site does is it gives customers the ability to find the best system integrator or consulting firm to help them implement their enterprise software project and really make a wise and well-informed decision by reading peer reviews from other customers who have gone through the same process as they have. Raven Intel is a free site, and I founded it after spending 25 years in the HR tech business and seeing implementation just not being a good experience for customers. And I felt that there was more transparency that was needed in our industry, and the ability for customers to know what they did not know about consulting firms and make a wise, well-informed choice about the partner that they selected. And it's so critical to have the right partner alongside you as you implement an enterprise solution. And really that's the reason that we exist, is to help improve that process and really help to ensure that implementations go great and are everything that the customer hoped for.
Good. Yeah, my name's Eric Kimberling. By way of introduction, I'm the CEO and founder of Third Stage Consulting. We're an independent technology agnostic consulting firm that helps clients through their digital transformations. And much like Raven Intel, one of the key words there is being technology agnostic. I mean, you guys review all different sorts of ERP and HCM systems out there. And so we have that shared vision for the need for that independence and sort of that objective view of the market. But, you know, in theory, you know, as you talk about the site and as I visited the site and worked with you over the last few months, it seems like a no-brainer that there would be a website like Raven Intel out there. But what, back a year or 2 years ago before it existed, how did you come up with the idea? Why did you name it Raven Intel? Maybe just share a little bit of background of how you got to this point.
Yeah, so the name Raven Intel, or Raven, is all about giving customers this bird's eye view of the SI landscape or consulting firm landscape. And so that's sort of like the rationale behind Raven Intel. But, you know, I think more and more customers, not just of software, but, you know, just in our daily lives, we have so many tools to make a great decision about where to vacation or, you know, a restaurant to choose, that I felt like that same great solution that we have for consumer type of information, or, you know, on Amazon, you could read a rating about, you know, $3 item that you're going to purchase. You know, why not enable that for, you know, consulting and consulting projects, which, you know, you're spending lots of investment and time in. And so, you know, I think it just was the right time to help provide a solution and a platform that has, like, you know, a consumer-friendly approach, but also, you know, helps customers, you know, and having an independent platform, as you mentioned, see really across all options that they have in the consulting world.
Right. No, that's great. It fills a need that as you talk about it, it's surprising that it never existed before. So it's kudos to you guys for coming up with the idea and executing on it. So, you know, I've spent a lot of time on your site. I know Third Stage has reviews from our clients on there. Tons of software companies and SIs have their reviews posted out there too, where customers can go out there and post it. But I haven't spent nearly as much time with the data as I'm sure you have. So out of curiosity then, when you're looking at system integrators and some of the reviews you're seeing, some of the data that comes in, what are some of the key things that customers should be looking for when they're evaluating system integrators? What are some of the key criteria?
Yeah. I would say that it really comes down to three major things. And number one is has the firm that you're looking at done a project similar to the one that you're ready to embark on? And that means, do they have experience implementing that particular software, that module, that geography that you're looking to, to roll out? And do they have the proof points that show that they have the experience with the product, as well as other customers in your industry who have done the same type of project. So ensuring the experience with the software, with the module and geography scope is number one. I think secondly is understanding the team that's going to be assigned to your project. And the people that are on your team, assigned from the SI, are going to ensure that you are a satisfied customer or not. They're going to be the ones that you live with for many months during the duration of the project. And so you want to have assurance that the team that is going to get assigned to you is one that fits well with your, culturally, with your project team internally, and that you have a confidence that they know what you're doing. I think in a lot of cases where customers get unhappy is where the project team changes mid-project, or they sign the contract thinking that they would be assigned one team, and lo and behold, project starts and they have a whole new set of people that they hadn't met. So number two would be ensuring that the project team you have a big comfort with, and you have assurance that they're going to be the ones working with you. And then number three is know what customers are saying independently about that firm. And that's really what Raven Intel is here to help you do, is to find that independent voice of the customer. It's one thing to go to the SI and ask them for a customer reference, but they are going to be giving you customers that are happy, right? And that doesn't necessarily represent the overall spirit of work that they're doing. So if you go out to Raven Intel, you can look at some very independent viewpoints out there. If you see your firm doesn't have a lot of reviews out there, that's one of the things that you should probably question. Do they have the proof points around the project or the customer references that you can find independently? And I think that's a huge, huge key. And I'll just say, companies like Third Stage Consulting, right? Please go out and look at the Third Stage profile out on Raven Intel. You will find legitimately, very happy customers that are willing to go out and review the work that's been done about Third Stage. And really, our mission is to help really raise the visibility to firms like Third Stage who have the experience in managing these big projects, but also have the service delivery to prove it. And really, you'll see lots of examples of firms out there that have plenty of reviews that should make you feel comfortable about the merit of and quality of their work.
Yeah, and I like the tying it back to the whole Raven concept and sharing information and providing that bird's eye view. It's one of the problems in the industry that we have seen over the years, and I know you've seen it too, is when we help clients select a system integrator, one of the things that we would typically go through is asking for those customer references. And of course, you're going to get the best ones and the best case studies possible from them. So it's nice to have an independent source like Raven Intel. And I would try up until you guys were around. And I still do this sometimes, but it's not as effective. But I'll still try to connect different clients of ours to other clients that are using that same system integrator or have used that integrator in the past, and it's kind of an unsolicited reference, if you will, independent. And so it's the same concept, but you're taking it to a whole other scale. You're bringing it to scale now, where it's kind of that knowledge, that mass knowledge sharing across customers, which is great.
And, one of the big pain points that, I saw having worked in the consulting world previously is that, every single time that a customer asks for a reference, you want to give them somebody to talk to. But then again, your customers have a job too, and they don't want to get continually asked to be a reference. What Raven does is it allows that to, you to use that reference many times without having to go back to the customer multiple times. And what we're seeing is a lot of SIs are actually using their profile on Raven Intel during the RFP process and early in the sales process to say, go check out our reviews here. And then, once you get a little bit further in the process, introducing those one-on-one contact points, just so that you don't have to overuse your customer and really be sensitive to their time as well. It really allows, I think, SIs to be a lot more efficient with their references.
Right. So your first point about the system integrator and whether or not they've done work like mine, that was your first criteria that you mentioned. I have a follow-up question there. So you had mentioned you want to make sure you have SI that has experience with the product that you're working with, your geography. What about the complexity of your business or the industry you're in? Some of the, call it the non-technical factors. How important has that been in some of the data you've seen over the years?
Yeah, I think those nuances are really important. In addition to being a software expert and a project management expert, having the, really the industry expertise, as well as, I would say, industry and geography is the other one. So do they have capabilities in country with what you're looking to roll out? It doesn't mean that, we cover Europe, that's nice, but do you have actual boots on the ground in Europe that are aware of the nuances and the different country regulations there? We've seen some negativity in these reviews when a customer went in thinking that, a firm had European experience, and yet that European experience was really sort of marginal. Maybe they had, a couple of in-country experts, but other than that, it wasn't, it didn't match the needs of the customer. And there's so many nuances in the geographic expertise that's needed. It's really important to make sure when somebody says they have, European expertise or expertise in Asia Pacific, make sure that they're in the countries that you are also in, because that nuance is really big.
Right. That's great. So speaking of global projects and different geographies, there's always the question of, do I hire a big 5 global system integrator? Do I hire a regional mid-tier player? Do I hire a smaller boutique type of system integrator? Especially if I'm implementing a product like Microsoft Dynamics or maybe a tier 2 type of product. And even with SAP and Oracle too, the big guys, there's still the question of, do I go with a big, Accenture, Deloitte, Capgemini, one of those guys, or do I go with, a tier 2, tier 3 vendor to help me implement? What have you seen in the data? What is this out global SI versus a smaller, more regional SI?
Really, we see no correlation between, having a GSI or one of the big 5 having any impact on customer satisfaction. Some of the inverse is actually true. And I think what's more important about selecting an SI or a partner is not necessarily the brand or the fact that they're a big 5 firm, but the fit. And what we see is a lot of independents provide a great value, more attentive service, and more of a specialty than some of the GSIs are able to provide. Now, not in all cases, that doesn't mean that independents are the best choice or, global SI is the best choice. It really goes back to, what is the scope of the project that you're embarking on? And, can you find capabilities in an independent or boutique firm that really can provide you with a better overall value? In a lot of cases, there's some amazing independent firms out there that, can offer, the same solution for, half the cost. and a lot greater sort of attentiveness to a customer than maybe a GSI could provide. So most important though is fit, and making sure that if you're going to go with an independent, that you vet the the authenticity of customer reviews and things like that.
Right. Yeah, and one thing we noticed too, especially for companies that aren't Fortune 500 or Fortune 1000 companies, and in some cases they, are mid-sized companies, they may not have the sophistication or maturity to know how to manage a big, huge SI. And in some cases that mismatch can be, that imbalance of power can be a challenge, because you've got this huge SI and then I'm a smaller company and I'm trying to figure out how to manage these resources. And so it may not point to deficiencies necessarily in that big SI, but it's a cultural mismatch in a lot of cases.
It's overkill in a lot of cases, and you're going to pay a lot more for that, the brand than you might with an independent, particularly if you're more of a mid-enterprise sized customer.
Right. Now, along those lines, it kind of segues into the next question I had for you, Bonnie, is when I'm reading not your reviews, but the reviews on your site, I'm always fascinated by not just the quantitative scoring that people rate the SIs in different categories, but even more so the qualitative comments that people provide. It's just very rich with just things you can't capture in a number, right, or a rating. And so the reviews are great from that perspective, and the way you guys frame the questions are very good. And so you've gone through more of this data, much more than I have, but based on some of that qualitative and quantitative data that's out there on your site, what are some of the biggest regrets that you see or you hear people talk about as it relates to their overall transformations?
Yeah, that's a great question. And one of the questions that we ask the customer is what is the lessons learned during this implementation? What advice would you give somebody doing the same thing as you just did? And I would say that the number one regret that we hear is that customers wish that they had put more change management into the process than they did. And that always, I think putting enough change management into the process covers a multitude of sins, so to speak. And I think that's one thing that customers wish they banked more on, or wish they had provided more in the way of investment within the initial scope of work. I think the second thing is, customers wish that they challenged the status quo more during the implementation. And this idea that you now have a new system is great, but bringing outdated processes into a new system runs contrary to why you would embark on a project like this in the first place. And so customers, we hear on lots of these reviews, is I wish that internally I challenged status quo more and sort of reinvented a process as opposed to trying to retrofit it into a new system.
Yeah, both those things go hand in hand too, and they're things that a lot of system integrators aren't going to be as good at or as adept in as they are with the software and the technology itself. And so interesting feedback. And then, the change management, that's your comment about change management is very consistent with what we've seen too in our experience and research, is that change management is one of the most overlooked things during projects like these. And I don't know about you, but I've yet to meet the CIO or CFO or name an executive of any sort that says, I wish we would have spent less time on change management, or I wish we would have invested less money in the process. It's usually the opposite. I've yet to meet a single person that has ever said that after the fact.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, if I had to add like just one more piece to that too, is I don't think anybody has been thrilled that they went through an implementation in a big bang approach that usually, ends up, having a lot of rework after the idea of, trying to rush to get an implementation done, I think never bodes well. Taking your time to make sure that you've planned and that you've sort of sequenced things so that it's manageable really you end up being thankful for that in the end, as opposed to trying to get to the finish line quickly.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Well, this is great stuff, Bonnie. I appreciate you sharing your feedback here. And I guess one last question I have for you: if I'm a customer and I want to go out there and look at independent reviews, what's your website again? What's the address I go to see these reviews?
Absolutely. Ravenintel.com, and we'll be very glad to have you there.
Yep. Good. Well, yeah, I hope people watching will either go read reviews or submit reviews if you've worked with one of these system integrators. And one other thing I'll note that I don't think you mentioned is you guys independently verify this stuff too, right? So you can't get, if I'm an Oracle SI competing against another Oracle SI, I can't go out there and badmouth create some anonymous reviews that will badmouth my competitors. You guys actually verify the information that goes out there to make sure it's real people.
Absolutely. Every review that we have posted has been authenticated and read, goes through a thorough review process before it ever gets posted. With that said, if you've gone through an implementation recently and could share your story and leave a review, it takes about 5 minutes. We certainly would love to have that, and I'm sure your SI would as well.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, Bonnie. It's great chatting with you again, and appreciate you taking the time here. Again, it's Bonnie from Raven Intel. I'm Eric from Third Stage Consulting, and thanks everyone for watching here today.
Thank you.